Hello everyone, it's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. Today, March 13th, 2023, um, Aptera put out this press release saying California Energy Commission awards Aptera Motors $21 million for solar mobility manufacturing. And then there's a couple of quotes from Chris Anthony saying working with the CEC enables us to produce grid-free, carbon-neutral solar mobility while creating new jobs for all Californians, targeting 10% in underserved communities. Our overarching goal is to meet the demands for our solar vehicles to have a real impact on climate change, sharing in CEC's ultimate mission. And then CEC puts out their quote saying Aptera represents California's innovative and entrepreneurial spirit when it comes to electric vehicles, harnessing the power of the sun to go further on truly zero emission solar energy, says CEC Commissioner Patty Monahan. The Energy Commission is proud to fund Aptera to manufacture the world's first mass-produced three-wheeled solar car, meeting California's goal to zero out pollution from transportation over the next 15 to 25 years will require innovation and thinking outside the box. And they said world's first mass-produced and three-wheeled solar car, but they can just say world's first mass-produced three solar car without taking out the three-wheel because it's pretty clear that the Sono Scion is not making it. Sono Scion is not making it, and the Lightyear Zero is not making it, and they've switched to Lightyear 2, which probably isn't going to get produced for a minimum of 2 more years, if at all. So Aptera is, if they stay relatively on track, they are going to be definitely the world's first mass-produced solar vehicle. And then here's some bullet points. They're talking about no tailpipe pollution, but Aptera is even cleaner than your typical zero-emission vehicle because the electricity doesn't have to be generated using fossil fuels or something else. It makes its own fuel from the sun. And it doesn't need to charge from its grid. And they're saying it becomes a carbon neutral and a true zero-emission vehicle. Now, that does not take into account the embedded energy of manufacturing the vehicle because the batteries and the frame and the motors and everything that requires some energy inputs to create, and mining and equipment and all that stuff. So there is embedded carbon in the Aptera. However, even in that case, Aptera is going to be much less because it uses a much smaller battery pack for the same range, and it's much lighter and uses less material, and so it's going to have less embedded carbon than other EVs as well. And then the last bullet point is, in addition, one of Aptera's key goals for the project is to attract and employ new members of Aptera's workforce from underserved communities, including regional Indian tribes. Aptera will also be partnering with local community colleges to train and recruit new employees. Okay, so this is a $21 million grant. Now, a couple of questions that everyone's going to have or might have is this a different grant? Is this a new grant? No, it's the same grant. So this is the same grant that we talked about back in, this was August 24, 2022. This is when California first announced that Aptera is most likely going to be a recipient of this grant. And so here's the original program release. See, this was a zero emission transportation manufacturing grant application request for submissions, and they released this on March 30th, 2022, and the submission deadline was June 27th of 2022, and then they announced on August 24th this. Okay, here we go. Where is this thing? I'm gonna find it here. Huh. Okay. Well, anyway, right here. I'll show you. Okay, they announced it here. So we'll blow this up a little bit. This was updated, but this is where they had 4 categories. So complete zero emission vehicle infrastructure, components, and batteries. So these were the top scorers in each category. So Gillig was this making zero emission buses, ChargePoint obviously making ChargePoint charging networks. This First Element Fuel was making biofuel, and then Moxion Power was making batteries. But in terms, they were also going to award it to like the top overall scores, regardless of what category they were. And the top 3 were like BYD, Aptera, and Symbio. So it was relatively certain that Aptera was going to get awarded because they were so high. So this was back in um, August of 2022, and at that point, the proposed award was $21,911,630. Okay, so, and then just a few weeks ago, February 22nd, 2023, we knew that they were on their way to finalizing the award because they were having this business agenda dated February 15th, 2023, and that is this thing right here. And this, if you look at the bottom, this is where that comes from. That if you look at task 7, Task 7 is establish Aptera's underserved communities initiative to support the workforce development and training. So they're going to try to find underserved communities and also work with local community colleges on job training and internship opportunities. So that was one of the main goals of this grant, was to also do that, which is why here they specifically spell it out as one of their little bullet points. So it is the same grant that we've been talking about for almost, more than 6 months now, almost 9 months now. And now I guess it's finally finalized, and they're 100% getting it at this point. It was, it was like pretty sure back in August. It was basically a certainty. It was just paperwork that needed to be done on February 15th, and now all the T's have been crossed and the I's have been dotted, and it is a done deal. So this is a matching grant, so they have to spend money on this infrastructure. So it's $21,911 and $911,630. So they have to spend money, and when they spend money, they get a matching grant. So you can see, like, here's their proposed vendors, and we went over these in some detail in this video. So you can go check that video, which is back from February 22nd on this channel. And so here's the places that they're going to spend. So they would, if Aptera spends this much, they were going to give them this much. So, in some places it's kind of odd, like the funds will match more than they actually spend, and in some places it's much less. In some places it's like 1-to-1. So I don't know exactly what the reasoning behind that is, but it basically is a matching grant, and so it doubles, like the accelerator program money when they're using it. If they're using it on any of these vendors, the California grant will refund them the money basically, so that they can deploy it in other things. Or I believe if you add these two together, that may be what the actual cost of the thing is. So they basically are getting everything essentially half off. So that's a good thing. The other interesting thing I found out from this announcement today is Aptera announced it on their Facebook page, and so here it is. They're saying it. They're saying $21 million. It's 21.9 million actually. So I would have rounded up to 22 million. But if you go down here, okay, this is it. Someone asks, any word on the Federal Department of Energy grant loan? So that's the ATVM loan, which last we heard, Steve Fambro on his LinkedIn said that they were getting the application ready and had not submitted it yet. So it sounds like they might have submitted it, because it says, as soon as we receive the word, we will let you know. We are optimistic about this. I guess it doesn't say that they've submitted it. I guess they could still be putting the application together and saying that as soon as they receive the word, they'll let us know, and they're optimistic. But I kind of took this to mean that they've now submitted the application. Not sure about that. But it does sound like to me that they might have already submitted the application, which would be good, because I've said many times, I believe the ATVM loan may be their best chance of getting the funding necessary to make it to production. Now, the other question people are going to have is, Aptera has said, Chris Anthony has said many times that they're going to need $50 million to start production. And then after they get the $50 million, it's going to be about 9 to 12 months from then to start production. So as far as we know, they have not gotten that $50 million yet. And so we are still 9 to 12 months away from start of production. Now, does this $21 million count towards that $50 million. So I asked Chris Anthony this specifically at the last interview I did with him, and no, it does not. So they already knew about this grant, and this grant is included. So they need $50 million in addition to this grant from California. So that's a total of 71 million or 72 million if you want to round up. And what's pretty clear is that they said later on at the more recent conferences and stuff that they're looking to raise about 150 to 200 million in Series B funding from larger investors, and I believe that's the amount of money they need to get to full scale production. I think $50 million kind of gets them to the start line, and they can start, they can pay their vendors, and they can get the supplies, and they can probably start like hand building a few at that point. But to get all the staffing up and their assembly line to full production, I think they're looking at needing about 150 to 200 million dollars. So that is how I interpret the statements that they've been making. So this is so to sum up everything, this is the same grant we've been talking about for 9 months. The $50 million to get to the start line is in addition to this, and it sounds like in order to get to full production, they're going to need 150 to 200 million dollars, which sounds like a lot. But if you look at the amount of money that, like, say, Faraday Future has blown through $3 billion, and still, they claim they're going to start soon, but who knows? And then Lucid and Rivian, they went through, $2 to $4 billion before they made it to production. So this is easily an order of magnitude less funding to make it to mass production. And you could argue that Rivian and Lucid still have not made it to, quote, mass production. Although maybe you could say Rivian has. They are putting out quite a few vehicles. Okay, so that's the big news from Aptera today. This is finalized, but it is the same grant. It's not a new grant um, that's in addition to the grant we heard of back in August, and then we talked about again a few weeks ago. It is the same grant, but definitely good because this doubles the impact of the accelerator program, and essentially this grant helps Aptera get all their tooling for kind of 50% off. All right, so great news from Aptera that this is finalized and they can kind of put this behind them and start using this grant. We just need more funding through crowdfunding, and honestly, it would be great if we heard an announcement that they found funding from the Middle East or from Europe or from India or from someplace. And the most hopeful thing I heard is that it sounds like they may have submitted the loan grant application. Now, I asked some people at Aptera if indeed they had put out this grant application, but I have not heard anything back yet at the time of making this video. If I hear anything back, I'll definitely let you guys know. Okay, well, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks as always to our supporting members. Have a great day, everyone.